time for PetSylvania with Dr. Bob Esplin. Dr. Bob guides you through the latest veterinary techniques and procedures to keep your pets in the best of health. PetSylvania is brought to you by Elanco, maker of Trifexis and Comfortis. With your ears up and tails wagging, here is Dr. Bob.
Good morning. It's another Saturday, and here we go. The weeks just fly by for me. I'm so busy at the office, and here we are recording at the end of my business week so that we can broadcast this morning. Again, we're brought by Elanco, makers of Comfortis and Trifexis, and I'd really like to thank them for their sponsorship. These are great products, and we are seeing so many fleas right now. It's really, I think, important that if your animal is not on really good quality flea control, you best get in and learn about Comfortis and or Trifexis if you want to protect against heartworm and fleas on a once-a-month flea pill and a heartworm pill, all in one. Just two great products. The next great step in heartworm and flea control for dogs, and Comfortis is now available for cats as well. And there's nothing worse than a cat with fleas because they get underneath your bed and they house in there and they get in a little hard to get at places where now they can become flea infested. So getting your cats treated for fleas with Comfortis is really important. And of course, my other sponsor is my office, SylvaniaVET. So I try to highlight some of the many services that we offer, and boarding is we consider that we have the best boarding facility in the area. As the weather is getting cooler and fall's approaching here, that we'll turn the heated floors back on so that on those cool fall and winter days and in early spring, when the animals come in, they can come in and they can lay on a floor with radiant heat. That's really comfortable. Of course, every animal in our care has some bedding that we provide. We have the best ventilation system. We actually change the air 12 times an hour, and the air that's in the building goes through a HEPA filter and a charcoal filter. And you can come in and take a tour anytime, and I challenge you to smell anything other than clean air and soap, because we're back there bathing dogs for our excellent grooming service as well. Our dogs are walked outside, included in the cost of boarding. They go outside at least 4 times a day individually, not in gang trips outside where we can't keep track of how they're doing. We know that every dog that's in our care, whether they peed or pooed on their trip outside. And then we do a walkthrough because our overnight staff is there. We do a walkthrough at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the building is never unoccupied. So that should be reassuring. There's no other boarding kennel in the area that has the 24-hour staffing in the facility. So the fact that animals are never alone should be really important to you when you're leaving town. Our number, 419-885-4421, or the web at www.SylvaniaVET.com. Come in, take a tour anytime. I think you'll really be impressed. This week we had a phone call from somebody. Their animal had gone out for the last call of the evening, and the next thing you know, it came in and it had had a close encounter of a serious kind with a skunk, and it really smelled. And they wanted to know, was it true that tomato juice would take out the smell? The reality is tomato juice really won't do that, and tomato juice is more acidic. And what we really need is something that's a little more basic. So there's a formula for a home treatment that seems to work pretty well, and we call it the deskunker. And so what you do is you take a pint of hydrogen peroxide, and you put a teaspoon of Dawn dish soap in with that, and a quarter cup of baking soda, and then you mix it all together, and then you apply it to the pet, and you work it in. I'd wear gloves because your hands are going to smell if you don't wear gloves, and let it sit on the dog for at least 10 minutes, and then you rinse it off real well, and you can bathe in it. If there's still an odor, I'd repeat it, and I'd do that until the odor's gone, and that'll pretty much take care of it. If there's any way you can do that bathing outside, I would highly recommend it, because your house is going to smell like the skunk that we saw dead by the side of the road for a while if you've brought him in. Lizzie called me, was in the office, and she asked me a question about her dog. She says it's a new client, and she says her dog has a grade 3 murmur, and she wanted to know what that meant. And well, the reality is it isn't. You grade tumors, and so the higher the number, the more severe the tumor. But in hearts, you stage the noise of their heart if they have a heart murmur. So you stage the heart murmur on a scale of 1 to 6, and a 3 out of 6 just talks about the intensity of the sound. It doesn't talk about the severity of the murmur. It doesn't talk about how bad the dog is doing. So a 6 isn't necessarily worse than a 3. It's just noisier. A murmur by itself doesn't mean anything bad. It's just an alert to start paying attention to the animal's heart. And so we recommend that when we first hear a heart murmur, we take chest x-rays and we look at the size of the heart, we look at the lungs and make sure that there's no fluid building up. But in most cases, a heart murmur does not necessarily indicate that the dog is on the verge of death or is about to get congestive heart failure. And a heart murmur does not mean that the dog cannot have a general anesthesia procedure if it needs to have a dental cleaning or a knee surgery or anything that it needs to have done. Tumors removed can be done in an animal with a heart murmur. We just take extra precautions and we evaluate that. We evaluate that heart. So I hope that reassures Lizzie a little bit, and I think she felt a lot more comfortable. And we scheduled those chest x-rays, and everything looks pretty good. So her heart size is still within normal limits, and that's a really good sign. Got some exciting news from PetSylvania producer this week, and they've been editing them down, and we're now in a position that we're starting to post them on the website. So if you've missed any and you just can't get enough of Dr. Bob on PetSylvania, then I think that you can go to our website, SylvaniaVET.com, and you can find the place where the PetSylvanias have been archived. We're up to 9 broadcasts at this point, so that's pretty terrific. Had another client want to know what they would do if their animal was on Trifexis and it had developed ticks. Well, at this time of year, as we approach fall, tick season's pretty much wound down, and we don't have to worry so much about ticks. But in the spring, when weather starts to break and we get back into the tick season, then your dog is on Trifexis. What we recommend is a collar called Scalibor. It lasts for 6 months. It actually kills ticks. It repels ticks. It repels mosquitoes, and it has a small amount of flea killing power. And so it's waterproof. And once applied, it takes a couple of weeks for Scalibor to become effective. But as a result of that, you can bathe them, and you should be good. I've seen a video where ticks that were put on the animal were actually backing out as they got close to the skin, and the Scalibor was there. It led to not only them dying, but trying to bail out before they got into trouble. Saw a funny cartoon on Facebook the other day, and you can contact me on Facebook at Robert Esplin, and make a friend request, and I'm there to answer questions all the time. And it was a funny picture of a cat, and it was had its paw extended, and it was pushing a $20 bill, and it says, "If you want to cuddle on demand, go buy a dog." And I thought that was pretty funny, because that cartoonist really did understand cat behavior. Most people want to be able to pick up their warm, cuddly cat, and they're really not necessarily all that happy about that close encounter with the humankind. Some cats will and do it on their terms, but you'll be sitting there petting them, and the next thing you know, their ears flip back and their eyes dilate, and they start to flick their tail, and they're telling you, "I've had enough and I want it down." And for some cats, the idea of a close encounter is to walk by and just kind of wag their tail at you as they move by, and they think they've had enough human contact. They're just not the social animals that dogs are, and so cat people have learned to accept that as normal cat behavior. It's best to remember that cats are not furry dogs. It's time for a break, and we'll be back. So if cats are not furry dogs, then how can you learn more about how to care for your cat and learn more about their temperament and their behavior so that they become a more active member of your family? And there's a great website, www.indoorpet.osu.edu/cats/. That's the Indoor Pet Initiative put on by Ohio State. There are several sections in there that talk about cat stressors and how to play and enrich your cat and the needs of an indoor cat. And most cats should be indoor cats because it's a dangerous world out there. And of course, they can go out and pick up fleas. Because they may, even if they have Comfortis on board, they may bring a flea in and it jumps off before it dies, and we might get fleas in the house. We're in the process of doing something really fun at the office as we put our emphasis on cats and we put our emphasis on the cat-friendly practice. We're redecorating our exam rooms, and a really talented muralist, faux painter in this area, Julia Johnston. You may have seen her. She was a Face of Fox, and she now is the spokeswoman for Jim White Toyota. She's also a fantastic artist, and she's in the process of redecorating our rooms with some wall decorations. And you ought to just come in and see them. They're really cool pieces of art, and they're lots of fun, and they're bringing color and a lot of smiles into everybody's face that goes into the cat exam rooms. Ultimately, we're going to have all those exam rooms done with Julia's artwork, and then next year we're going to work on the 4 dog rooms. But we're going to do the cat side first because we're putting a lot of emphasis this year and then next on our indoor cat and our cat-friendly practice initiative. Had an interesting appointment today. I have an Air Force personnel that's being deployed to Japan, and she wants to take her dog. And this is no easy task. And there's about 6 pages of paperwork that we had to go through and fill out, and health certificates to sign. And now we get all that done, and then we have to ship it down by express mail to the USDA office in Pickerington, Ohio, and then they ship it back to us. And historically speaking, invariably something will be wrong, and we've got to do some more. So traveling internationally with your pet really can take a lot of time and thought and forethought in getting ready. You can't do it in the last month. There's things that you need to plan out well in advance if you're going to take your pet abroad, whether that be to Japan or China or Singapore. I've gotten animals ready to go to all those places, or to Europe. In some places, it's just not a good idea. England, it's really difficult to get an animal into England from the U.S. Because we have rabies here, and England is a rabies-free island, and they don't want it on the island. So it doesn't matter how safe it is, they just don't seem to care about that. Interestingly enough, the Lucas County Health Department is celebrating its 70th anniversary of looking out for the health of community members. And in the whole time that the Lucas County Health Department has existed, long into the 1950s and back, they've never had a rabid dog or a rabid cat in the county. So that's kind of reassuring. I had a client ask me if when we were talking about she having to shampoo her puppy, and she wanted to know if Baby Johnson's baby shampoo would be safe to do her puppy. And the reality is that there is no shampoo that's perfectly safe. That if you get it in the eyes, you got to rinse it out because it can cause irritation. But baby shampoo, because babies have much different skin oils and skin pH than dogs and cats and puppies and kittens, and it's extraordinarily drying, and so we do not recommend that you use Johnson's baby shampoo on your pets, except in a pinch when it might be the only thing that's available. Almost every day, we see cats that are way overweight, and in great part that's because they're eating strictly dry food, which is terrifically convenient. You just fill a bowl up, and then when it gets a little bit low, you put it in there a little bit more. But cats are not, as a group at least, are not the world's best portion controlist, and they will overeat. But the other issue is that dry food by its nature is very high in carbohydrates, and cats lack two specific enzymes for proper digestion of carbohydrates. As a result, the high cat food diet, which is also very high in calorie density, really lends itself to obesity. So how do we diet a cat? Well, we diet a cat by substituting dry food, canned food for dry food. And so if you take a quarter cup of dry food, that's roughly 100 calories. And if you take 3 ounces of canned food, that's roughly 90 calories. So if you took if you wanted to diet your cat and you started substituting, you could take 2 ounces of canned food, take away a quarter cup of dry food, and only put measured amounts of food out, and now we've reduced the calories. And if we have a truly obese cat that really needs to lose weight, we put them on strictly canned food. They eat nothing but canned food, and then in measured amounts of canned food. I mean, everything is precluded on measuring your pet's food. You should do that for your dogs as well. Portion control is extraordinarily important in that regard. And then and feed them that, and they will lose weight. The same thing will happen if you really get serious about portion controlling your dog. You can use diet dog food, you can use the regular dog food, but you've got to measure it, and you got to feed it to the number of calories that you want your dog to be. And I had a dog in this week. His name was Diego, and a year and a half ago, 16 months ago actually, Diego weighed 98 pounds, and when he was in today, he weighed 65 pounds. In 16 months, he'd lost 33 pounds, so 2 pounds a month on average. It's a pretty good rate of loss for a dog on a diet. This owner has been super diligent. She got a big smiley face on her chart because that's really quite an accomplishment. So it can be done, but it takes a commitment from you and it as the owner, and it takes you ignoring that dog with those begging eyes and that tongue hanging out while you're prepping food or you're at the dinner table. You got to say no and not keep adding the portion, and you got to get everybody in the family on board. It's really hard when you have younger children who don't understand that, and they love giving the dog bones and treats and things. Treats that you can give that you can almost do unlimited are things like pieces of melon, frozen green beans, sliced carrots. Those have very little calories or no calories. And believe it or not, a lot of dogs really like fruits and vegetables. And it's always wise to remind you that grapes and raisins are the only fruit and vegetable that a dog is not allowed for reasons that we don't have the answer to yet. They are toxic to the kidneys of the animal. This week we had an extraordinary surgery last Friday with one of my doctors, Dr. Kate. She was in surgery for over 4 hours, removing a large mass that was adhered to everything that existed in the abdomen: the small intestine, the large intestine, the spleen, the what's known as the omentum, the bladder. And this mass was the result of a complication associated with a spay done at a low-cost spay and neuter clinic. And I don't know what they did wrong. They did something wrong. I've never had this in 40 plus years of practice. I've never had this happen. So they worked through a tiny little incision, and that led to some kind of an infection complication, and then it just got completely out of hand. When this was all said and done, it was the size bigger than a softball but smaller than a soccer ball. So it's now time to take another break. We'll see you on the other side. Well, we're back to wrap it up, and I just want to again thank Elanco, a maker of Comfortis and Trifexis. We have by far the most competitive prices in the area on those products. So, come in, check us out. We have to have a client-patient-doctor relationship, but we would love to establish that relationship and then sell you those products. We've got a number of really great events coming up here, and I want to remind you today is Dog Days of September at the Lucas County Rec Center. It's going on right now. It's going to go till 4 o'clock so you got plenty of time to get up there, load the kids, load the dog, head out to the rec center. There's just a lot of great stuff. Sylvania Vet's going to be there. We've got a chance to win all kinds of fun prizes and a lot of things for you to participate in our magic wheel. Dr. Kate and a part of her crew are going to be out there just having the very best of times. You'll see Laura, as you can say hi to her, and there's a good chance that maybe Lola will make her presence seen. Sunday at Sidecut Park, the Golden Retriever Club is holding a fun walk, and to learn more about that, you go to gr-rescue.org, and you the walk on Sunday at Sidecut Park. October 21st is the Fall Festival in Sylvania, and that's an event that's absolutely worth having. There's a parade, the bands are there, there's a lot of booze, there's a lot of great food, so SylvaniaVET again will be there. Friday, October 19th, just get that weekend party hat on. You can go to the Cool Cat Strut, which is a Paws and Whiskers major fundraiser. They are in need of a great participation there at their event, because they're in some financial difficulty, and they could use everybody's support. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can learn more by Googling Paws and Whiskers. Going to be prizes for best costumes and best cat costume. And then just a little early, I almost hate to mention this, but time is flying along here. Sunday, December the 2nd, we do Santa pet pictures at SylvaniaVET, and I'm the Santa, and so I'd love to have you come out and meet some of my listeners out there. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about SylvaniaVET. You know, we are a regional full-service veterinary hospital. We're not your average guy down the street. We're there for you 24/7. No one else can say that. We answer our own phones. And this past week, we had Sarah, one of our overnight tech angels, field a series of phone call from a family who were new to this area, and their dog had gotten into some chocolate. She was able to walk these people through with the steps necessary. They really couldn't transport to the office, and so we walked them through, and Sarah just did yeoman's duty to get this dog through, telling the client what to give, how to get it to vomit, get that chocolate out of its system, how to monitor if it was having any problems. And we got the nicest letter from these people about they've lived all over the country, and they said they've never encountered a veterinary practice that seemed to care as much as SylvaniaVET. And it just brings a great big smile to my face. And Sarah is a terrific person, and she's just typical of our entire staff. They're just loving, caring people. I hope you feel that way about your veterinarian. And if you don't, come experience our level of care and service. It's pretty special. At the end of the day here, we're wrapping it up. The Buckeyes are getting ready to play. Dog Days of September is in full go, and fall is here, and the colors are going to start to change. There's only one greatest pet, and it lives in your home.
You have been listening to PetSylvania with Dr. Bob Esplin on WSYLradio.com. PetSylvania is brought to you by Elanco, maker of Trifexis and Comfortis. Tune in every Saturday at 10 a.m. as Dr. Bob explains the latest in veterinary care and answers your questions. You can email your pet questions to requests@WSYLradio.com, and Dr. Bob will answer them on a future show.